Millionaire went to evict tenant, but was shocked when heard. Two little girls say, Victor Langston didn't believe in luck. He believed in contracts, deadlines, and consequences. At 57, he'd built his fortune brick by brick. Real estate, luxury developments, eviction notices. There was no space in his world for sympathy. So when the property manager handed him a file with the words Unit 3B, 3 months delinquent, Victor didn't flinch. He tucked the notice into his coat, drove across town in his black Mercedes, and pulled into the cracked driveway of a once beautiful townhouse that now sagged with wear. The plan was simple. Knock, serve, walk away. He never expected the door to open to two tiny girls in matching blue dresses. They couldn't have been older than 6 or 7. Their eyes, large, dark, and trembling, met his with a fear that made Victor forget his words. "Is your mother home?" he asked, voice gentler than usual. The older one, standing tall with forced bravery, shook her head. She said she'd be back last week. The younger girl stepped forward, eyes welling. "Please don't take our home. We're waiting for Mommy." She said, "Mister, Langston would help us if anything went wrong." Victor's blood ran cold. "What did you say?" he asked. The older girl reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out a crumpled envelope. It had his full name written on it, in handwriting he hadn't seen in years. Elena. He opened it right there on the porch. Inside was a note, barely a few lines. "Victor, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. I didn't want to ask you like this, but they have no one else. Their names are Lily and Leah. Please take care of them." The world spun Elena Martinez. She was a part of his past, one he had buried deep beneath years of ambition. They had met over a decade ago. She was a tenant in one of his earliest buildings, warm, passionate, stubborn. They'd shared a few brief, beautiful months. He had walked away when he got the New York deal. He told himself it was timing, business growth. He never looked back. "Where's your mom now?" Victor asked, crouching. The girls shook their heads. "She said she had to go fix something," Leah whispered. "She never came back." Victor stepped inside. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No lights, no TV, just 2 small beds, a few empty cereal boxes, and a note on the fridge reminding the girls how to heat up leftovers. The air smelled faintly of lavender and desperation. Victor's hand clenched. He looked at the eviction notice in his coat pocket, folded it in half, then into quarters, then slowly tore it into pieces. He brought them food from the corner diner. He sat awkwardly at the small kitchen table while the girls ate like they hadn't had a warm meal in days. He watched them closely, how they stayed close together, how they whispered before answering, how their eyes drifted constantly to the door as if still waiting for someone to walk through it. That night, he called every hospital. No record of Elena. Then he called a private investigator. "Find her," he said, "and keep this quiet." Victor didn't sleep. Instead, he sat in his downtown penthouse, looking through an old storage box. He found a photo. Him and Elena smiling outside a cheap coffee shop, her hand on his chest, his arm wrapped around her waist. He wondered if she had ever meant to tell him she was pregnant. He wondered if the girls were. He stopped himself. Did it matter? The next morning, he was back at the townhouse. The girls were still there, still waiting. "Are you taking us away now?" Lily asked. Victor knelt beside her. "No," he said softly. "I'm taking you somewhere safe." He picked up the phone. "Clear out the guest wing," he told his housekeeper. "We have family coming." Victor never thought he'd see his penthouse hallway lined with teddy bears, crayons, and tiny shoes. But just 3 days after finding Lily and Leah alone in the apartment, he stood barefoot on his marble kitchen floor at 6 a.m., pouring cereal with 2 sleepy girls wrapped in fleece blankets at the counter. They trusted him with quiet, wide eyes. No questions, no tantrums. Just trust. That made it worse because he didn't have answers yet. And deep down, he feared the truth. The private investigator called that night. "Victor," she said quietly, "I found Elena." He braced himself. "She's in a coma. Car crash. No ID on her. She's been in a county hospital under Jane Doe status for nearly 3 weeks." Victor's stomach dropped. She had been alive this whole time, alone, unidentified. He drove there that night, alone. And when he walked into the ICU and saw her, it nearly crushed him. Her face was bruised, tubes everywhere. But he recognized her. Beneath the stillness, beneath the years, she was still Elena. He sat beside her and whispered, "I'm sorry. I should have stayed." She didn't move. 2 days later, the DNA results arrived. Victor stared at the envelope for nearly 10 minutes before opening it. The words were clear. Biological father, not a match. He wasn't their father. He wasn't even related. For a moment, his knees buckled. He felt the weight of it, the shame, the confusion, the guilt for thinking they were his, for hoping they were. But then he remembered Lily's small fingers around his hand, Leia's soft voice saying, "Please don't take our home." And the feeling in his chest didn't change. They weren't his by blood, but they were his now. That night, he sat the girls down in his study, not with staff around. No formality, just him and them. "There's something I have to tell you," he said, kneeling down. The girls looked worried. "I'm not your real dad," he said gently, "and I don't know if your mommy will wake up, but I want you to know something." He placed a hand on both their backs. "I'm not going anywhere. You don't ever have to be afraid again." Leia began to cry. Lily threw her arms around his neck. "I knew you were good," she whispered. Weeks passed. Elena slowly improved, conscious, though her memory was fragile. Victor sat with her daily, reading to her, feeding her, showing her photos of the girls. One morning, her eyes filled with tears. "I always meant to tell you," she whispered. "They're my nieces." Victor blinked. "Elena, my sister, died giving birth to them. I wasn't supposed to raise them, but I couldn't leave them. I didn't know where to go. I just remembered you were kind once, that you kept your word when you promised to help if I ever needed you." Victor felt his throat tighten. He had once made that promise years ago over coffee, one he had never expected to be held to until now. 6 months later, the adoption was finalized. Victor Langston became their legal guardian. Elena, recovering well, chose to move in, too, not as a guest, but as family. The townhouse that once held silence now echoed with piano lessons, science projects, bedtime stories, and giggles in the hallway. Victor no longer wore sharp suits every morning. Sometimes he left his phone behind. He made pancakes. He combed doll hair. He learned to braid. He no longer cared what his board thought, because the man who had come to evict 2 orphans had been given something he didn't know he needed: a home. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.